Delighted to say we're going to go straight to Matt Anderson. He's the head of the Australian War Memorial and director of the memorial here in Canberra. Matt, you must be very pleased, heartened by what you've seen this morning in terms of the numbers, both at the dawn service and the National March.
Well, absolutely, Kieran, and thanks for having me on. It was a wonderful turnout this morning, a pretty cool morning here in Canberra. But, to have over 32,000 people, see the dawn in and honour all those who have worn our nation's uniform was a very, very powerful morning. I was really struck by the ages of the attendees this year. There were an awful lot of young kids there, which was terrific. But, in the course of the day, I've met people as young as 18 from the Australian Defence Force Academy and 104 from the Second World War. So it really was, all sections of community and all sections of those who were served. It was a really powerful morning.
It's 10 years since the end of Operation Slipper. That was the end of Australia's direct combat operation in Afghanistan. You're a former ambassador to Afghanistan following that period. We all remember, if we look at this, the longest conflict that Australian operations have been involved in, and the end to it, the tragic end and the visuals we saw and the outcome finally. How do you reflect on the legacy of that contribution by our ADF and military?
Well, the short answer is the men and women of the ADF who deployed to Afghanistan did their absolute best, and they should be very, very proud of that, as I am of them, and I got to witness it firsthand. But at the memorial, I met a lot of veterans, of course, from the various conflicts, including Afghanistan. And Kieran, I had a guy one day say to me, boss, did we make a difference? Did we leave Afghanistan in a better place than we found it? And all I could tell him, and this isn't sort of government issue talking points, this is my lived experience, was that, while I was there, I knew that our enemy, the Taliban, feared the Australian forces. I know that the coalition partners that I spoke to on a daily basis wanted more Australians there. And, as you say, I was ambassador, so I got to see most of the country. And as I travelled around the country and met with the governors of the various provinces, and from Kunduz in the north to Herat in the west, up the Panjshir Valley, Jalalabad, Kandahar, Uruzgan, all of those governors wanted Australians back. So all I can say, mate, is if our enemy feared us, and as I said to this young man, if our enemy feared us, if our coalition partners revered us, and if those that we were sent to train, advise and assist, fight and defend, wanted us back, then that's mission accomplished. And that's what I tell them, and that's what I believe.
What was the message today from Damian Tomlinson for our viewers who might not be aware? Damian is a double amputee, a veteran as well of Afghanistan. He gave the speech, the address at the National March today.
Yeah, and of course, Damian tragically lost both of his legs and nearly lost his arm in a what's an improvised explosive device. Basically, a car. His vehicle drove over a mine and detonated, and very, very badly wounded. So he reflected on his journey, his recovery, first and foremost. He reflected on the fact which I thought was quite powerful. He said, had that happened to him in the First World War, he would have died. So he just remarked at the standard of medical care and the treatment that he received. But he also took the time to acknowledge the families and the role of families in both his care, his rehabilitation, and ultimately the role that families play in continuing to sustain and support the Australian Defence Force, because without them we don't have a Defence Force. And I think that was a very, very powerful message that he left. This is a contemporary veteran, a fiercely brave man, both in uniform and since. He continues to inspire, and for him to reflect on the contribution that his family made to his own recovery and that the family made to the ADF and the Defence of our nation was pretty timely.
And I know you literally wrote the A to Z book on the Second World War for kids to give them a sense of the breadth of what our contribution has been. And I just wonder if you can reflect on this for me, because this morning we've gone from Kokoda and the Prime Minister to, I spoke to Matt Thistlethwaite at Sandakan in Malaysia, the death marches, where he was there to commemorate Australia's contribution and the terrible situation there for the POWs. Only 6 survived out of 2,500. But just reflecting on the contribution our diggers have made over the years, from the triumphs where we've turned back the enemy to these situations like Sandakan, where it was just a devastating abuse of their human rights, of their treatment as prisoners of war. It really is not just the breadth of the world in terms of where we're served, but the outcomes too. Yeah,
well, so we talk here at the Australian War Memorial. We go back every day to when this place was opened by Lord Gowrie VC, our Governor-General, back in 1941. And he said that when people leave here, they should utter never again. That this place ultimately is about the defence of peace or the pursuit of peace. But the only way you can really do that is by reflecting on the horrors of places like Sandakan, where, as you rightly say, only 6 survived, and those who survived came home forever affected by the trauma that they had witnessed. And that then there's intergenerational trauma that stems from that. And to the other side of the coin that you mentioned, Kokoda, where we're actually able to turn the Japanese forces around over the Kokoda track, and we're honoured today to have Les Cook, 102, who fought with the 2nd 14th Battalion in Kokoda. I think it's a combination of sort of the futility of war, the tragedy of war, and all of the 103,000 lives that we have lost in the past century as a consequence of that. But what today does for us is it also provides an example for us to aspire to. That's the power of Anzac Day. Anzac says this is what we've lost, but how much richer are we as a nation for the example that they've set for us. And when I met the young cadets who were preparing training yesterday, for them, Anzac Day is a challenge. It is both, the landings at Gallipoli are a challenge. They've been handed a torch that says this is the standard that you must live up to. And every one of them has taken an oath that they're going to give it their damnedest to do it, just like the young veteran from Afghanistan. There's an unbroken line that runs from the Ascot landing boat in our First World War gallery all the way through to the Tarancot wall where our current veterans sign. And that's an example of service and of sacrifice, the defence of our freedoms and the defence of our values. And that is what we pause and honour today.
Yeah, well said, and thanks for the work you do in keeping that alive for our nation, a key part of the fabric of what this country is all about. Matt Anderson, thanks, Director of the Australian War Memorial. Appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Kieran. Good on you.